Thank you so much for meeting with us today on the Mall Chat Room, Alison.
Yeah, thank you. I'm happy to be here. So, yeah, thank you so much.
All right, so getting right into it, would like to know about your journey into MAGMA. What was your passion and why you wanted to join and be a part of the leadership here?
So my background is hospitality. I worked in hotels and in the service industry. A lot of hotels, we have multicultural teams. And so my job prior to being at MAGMA was assistant director of human resources. So I was responsible for recruiting a lot of people. And even though we've had the biggest influx in Moncton in the last couple of years, in my prior position, I was still recruiting new arrivals to Moncton, which was really interesting to me. And so I thought that I really had an idea of how it was to settle in Moncton, and challenges and things like that, and how to get people their first job in Canada and things like that. So one of my team members actually that I hired, who was a young woman from Brazil who worked for us, I met her at a job fair and we hired her for our banquets team. She said, "I'm going to work at MAGMA." And I looked at her and I thought, I am so jealous of you right now. Like, that is what I wanted to do. When I took my human resources course, I had an instructor who was very much talked about certain non-for-profits and things like that. And so I always thought, one day I would really like to work for a non-for-profit. I just had no idea what it was going to be. And then the opportunity came for me to join MAGMA. And I thought I knew a lot about MAGMA, but I realized very quickly I knew nothing about MAGMA before I joined it.
Oh, that is so inspiring. So is that the most rewarding experience that you have had working with newcomers, or are there other stories or?
So, I love our mission. I love that we support multiculturalism. I've lived in a lot of other cities across Canada that had, very well established multicultural communities. So what I always say to my team, it's very, very exciting for us to be one of the last regions of Canada that really has become truly multicultural, and we will never get this opportunity to do this again, to build a community from the ground up that welcomes people from all corners of the world. So that is obviously very inspiring. I also am inspired a lot by the team, the people that I work with. I work with people from 20 different countries. I'm sure I will never get that experience again. Yeah.
That's huge.
It is huge, yeah. And it's changed not only how I work professionally, but changed me on a personal level, because you see things, worlds, events through a very, very different lens once you know things differently and you hear people's, what they've been through to come to Canada, or what life was like growing up in a different country, and so that inspires me every day to come to work, and you never know what your day is going to be like. There's always something new that you're learning, right? So, yeah.
That must be very impactful work you're doing. So are there any challenges that you face, especially with supporting the newcomers?
So, obviously, because, as I mentioned, we are one of the last regions of Canada to develop a multicultural community. Some of the barriers are, biases that we have. People maybe traditionally in the maritime provinces not a lot of us have left to go live in other countries, live in other provinces and things like that. So, some people may be limited in their understanding of, what it means to be Muslim, what it means to be Jewish, what it means to be, from a lot of people don't even know that Africa is a continent, not a country. So, there's always those kinds of things. So that, I think, is a huge barrier. The understanding that people have of what it is to welcome newcomers to our community, I think that's a huge challenge. And then now, as the world changes, pathways to immigration change, those are always super challenging too, because, as the world pivots, MAGMA has to pivot too. And we go, oh my goodness, now this change means that there will be gaps in services or gaps in supports that people need in order to stay and thrive in our province. So.
That's interesting. Do you want to speak about some of the programs that you have as an organization to support these newcomers? I know you did speak on, a couple of things that you have to assist the newcomers with, but can we speak a bit about some of these programs?
Yeah, so probably the largest one that we offer is language classes. We do English only classes here at MAGMA, but right now we have 17 classrooms that start from learning, very, literacy, early learning language classes to sort of developing skill sets that you would need for pre-employment, those kinds of things. So that's probably the biggest. Language for some people, it can be such a huge barrier. The language classes too are also really, it's one of my favorite success stories when I see people coming to their language classes, because they're not only learning language, which helps them get better acclimatized and integrate better and get better jobs and things like that. But it also, you see them when they come the first day of class, and maybe there's people from all over the world that come to MAGMA, and you see them, they don't know anyone, they're very shy with each other. Then you see at the end of the first week, maybe they're going for coffee together, maybe they're greeting each other in different languages. And then, by the time Christmas rolls around, they're hugging each other after not seeing each other over the holidays, because we go on break for the holidays. And so to see them building that community, I think is a really, really beautiful thing. And you have to see it in person. And I'm lucky I get to see that in person. So language classes is a huge thing. What else do we do? One of our language classes is a professional development in early childhood education. That's been really successful. And so it's predominantly women that have joined the class. And so a lot of women who maybe haven't had work outside the home before, this is their first sort of dipping their toe into what do I want to do besides being a mom and a homemaker. So they go to learn maybe about what ECE is doing. And then eventually, hopefully, they go on to go to college to get their official ECE degree and things like that. And that's been a really popular course. And not that it's geared towards just women, but the fact that we have so many newcomer women in it, and that this is their trajectory to getting their first real job outside the home, is really special to see.
And it is special to hear as well. Do you have any success stories from the language classes, maybe?
To me, the success is the fact that, we see people every day and they're building their community and things like that. Some of the ones that I see, is been very interesting, especially since the Ukrainian influx, is there's a lot of more senior people that are coming to language class. I mean, I try to imagine if I was 70 years old and all of a sudden a war broke out in our country and I had to go to another country and learn the language. It always inspires me to see these people coming here and not giving up and going, oh, well, I'm going to go and live in Canada. I need to learn the language, because that's not easy. With children, obviously, and younger people, it's much easier to learn a new language. But to watch the seniors coming and making new friends in a new country, and then also to learning the language, to me, that's really a success story. So
that's pretty inspiring.
Yeah, it is.
As a first-generation Canadian, how has your personal experience shaped your leadership approach here at MAGMA?
So my mom came from Scotland in the 1950s on a ship. She came with my grandfather and her sister. They had family already in Canada. And I don't think growing up that I really understood what that meant. So it's really interesting now to do this as part of my job, because I didn't know a lot of people whose parents were from other countries growing up in New Brunswick as a child. I understand now how she felt probably about missing things from her country, food items, her family, things like that. So as a leader, when you know that you have people from all around the world, you understand that sometimes when there is a crisis back home, it can be really difficult to do your job, especially if it involves war or, natural disasters, things like that. So I think it's made me much more empathetic and patient with people, because you understand we've also had to look at, our leave times and things like that, particularly the year after COVID, because so many people were not able to go home for so long to see their family members. So we had to create policies on, we need people to be able, if you live in Nigeria, it's not a 1 week trip, it's not a 5 day trip. You may need some extended leave time, and so I think it's made our entire leadership team much more aware of that there's a big distance around the world, and part of being a good employer is working with your team members to make sure that they do have a means to be able to see their families, to celebrate their holidays, like so many things, right?
So now that you speak about your team and some of the amazing work you have been doing, what are some of the long-term goals that you have for MAGMA and for the newcomer community?
Gosh, we have gone through such a huge change in the last 2 years. When I started here 5 years ago, we only had 59 employees. We now have 126, I think. So, I mean, as the influx happened and we welcomed more newcomers, and Moncton has become the fastest growing city. Likewise, MAGMA has also becoming really fast growing. So we never really know. We try to be really strategic about, what is going to retain people now. I think for the longest time, it was all about attracting people and how do we get people to come to the Maritimes. And now it's about how do we get people to stay here. So we're trying to think about what do people need in order to make their lives successful here in the region. And so I would say that is probably going to be our aspiration, is to keep on creating programs and supports that really help people plant roots here in Moncton so that they can raise their families and we can have next generations of New Brunswickers. And so.
That's amazing. So are there any collaborations with businesses here in Moncton or organizations that are partnering with MAGMA to ensure that these goals?
So we have built a lot of, one of our goals in the last 2 years has been about building those community partnerships instead of working in silos, and making sure, at the end of the day, we're all working for vulnerable populations and clients, and making sure that they, that the retention is there. So a lot of times now there's a lot of other multicultural groups, the ethnocultural associations, Moncton Cares, HOLA, who look after, different things, social events. We work a lot with CAFE and Dieppe, and so we're working really hard to partner on them with some different things because they traditionally help support Francophone newcomers. But, we're finding now that there's a lot of crossover in the clients that we look after. So we're trying really hard to, we work a lot with the school districts to make sure that newcomer students are supported and things like that. So it's getting to the point now where I think I look and go, who don't we work with at this point? So it seems to be, community partners such as, the municipalities, everyone is very, willing to work with us on programming and partnerships, and how do we support our community so that it's inclusive.
So if you were to tell the public one thing that is the hugest role of MAGMA in the community, what would that be?
So I think everyone thinks that we know how to do everything. Sadly, we don't know how to do everything. We get a lot of requests on a daily basis of things, from legal counsel to things like that. So what we've tried really hard to do is, even if it's something that we can't do here, we have tried to make it our mission that if someone comes here and asks us for support, that even if we can't give it to them as MAGMA as an organization, if it's not a service or a support that we do, that we make sure that they leave with names of other organizations and other support services so that they can, find the help and support that they need in the community, even if it's not a direct program through MAGMA. So we've worked really hard to do that. So I think that probably has been our biggest sort of mission over the last couple of years, is to make sure that, even if we don't do it, there is someone else that does that, and we are going to show you who else that person or organization is, rather. So,
and that is huge.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your time, and listening to your story. I find that the connection is really great, from your background, and having a mother who was an immigrant, and then being able to assist further down the line in your life to assist other newcomers. That is so compelling and so inspiring. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
What an incredible conversation with Alison. Her passion and leadership at MAGMA continue to shape more inclusive and welcoming communities for all. As we heard today, the journey of integration is more than just policies. It's about people, support systems, and shared commitment to diversity and inclusion. Thank you so much for being a part of the Mall chat room today. If you were inspired by this conversation, we encourage you to share, like, and subscribe for more insightful information and interviews on the Mall TV on YouTube. And if you'd like to support and learn more about MAGMA's work, you can look out for them on their website. Thank you, and see you again next time.